hot commodity. New tonight on Our News Live at 7, a $170 million development ignites investment in Exuma. The aviation minister explaining how the government is handling complaints from U.S. airlines over the fees to use Bahamian airspace. And stop the disrespect. The transportation minister responds to the taxi cab union. And then in Our News at 7:30, a teen is arrested with a high-powered weapon, but what is the root of the gun problem? Our Marlena Leonard takes a closer look. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kindino Knowles. A new multi-million-dollar development on an Exuma Key is expected to drive massive economic activity on the island, with developers promising hundreds of jobs. Berthany McDermott was there today as the deal was inked.
The Davis administration signing a $170 million heads of agreement with Torch Key Development Limited. Prime Minister Philip Davis saying the development will serve as an economic stimulus for not only Exuma, but also the country.
Valuable jobs will be created where they are needed most. More visitors will flock to our shores and witness the magnitude of what we have to offer.
Once completed, the project will provide an 18-hole golf course, environmental research facility, sustainable farm, marina, and a beach club and spa. The development in its entirety is slated to take 10 years to complete, but PMR Bahamas principal Ray Pensky explains it will be completed in phases.
The goal is to have the marina built in the first 3 years, the golf course completed in the first 30 months. So that'll be the full completion of the entire project, but there'll be stages of multiple milestones.
The agreement makes way for 250 jobs through construction and another 250 jobs when completed. Managing partner at PMR Bahamas Realty and Torch Key Development Limited, Philip Simon says work towards the project has already started. He explains the plan is to ensure the policy on local to foreign laborers is maintained.
The goal of this project is not only to meet the policy, but to beat the policy. I mean, again, we all spoke to it.
Now, the Deputy Prime Minister and area MP Chester Cooper saying he's hoping the new development will bring more people and activity to the area.
It's going to allow people to come back to the island of Exuma, Little Exuma in particular, but it's going to be good for community and good for the social development of the area.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Prime Minister, who is responsible for aviation, continuing to defend the country's right to manage and charge for the use of Bahamian airspace. This after 8 U.S. airlines filed joint complaints to the United States Department of Transportation, citing unjust, discriminatory, anti-competitive, and unreasonable airspace charges by the Bahamas. Cooper says a formal response was sent yesterday as officials continue to work through diplomatic channels to ensure clarity and agreements between the Bahamas and the United States.
We contend that there is no double charging. We contend that our fees are, in some cases, less than they are in the region, less than they are in the world. In certain categories, without getting too technical, there's been a reduction in some areas. But overall, we believe that the competitive analysis will show that the fees are fair and that the fees are reasonable.
A 27-year-old man is behind bars after police seized 369 pounds of marijuana in his home on Munnings Drive. Police say a tip led them to Kevin Rhodes' home on January 8th. During the search, the officers say they seized the drugs in Rhodes' bedroom. The drugs have an estimated street value of $369,000. Roll pleaded guilty to drug possession with the intent to supply in his arraignment before Magistrate Samuel McKinney, Rhodes' lawyer, telling the court he resorted to the drug trade after he fell on hard times and said, while it was not an excuse, asked the magistrate for leniency for his early guilty plea. Roll was sentenced to 18 months in prison and will be extended by 6 months if he fails to pay a $12,000 fine. His guilty plea did lead prosecutors to withdraw charges against 6 other men who were arrested. And a 15-year-old boy has been arrested after police say he was found with a loaded, high-powered weapon containing over 20 rounds of ammunition. Police say the shot spotter system alerted them to gunshots in the Wilton Street, that is, area shortly before 5 p.m. Wednesday. Residents also contacted police about a young boy armed with a gun. Officers searching the area say they arrested the teen through West Avenue just off Collins Avenue. And that's not all. Police say the teen was involved in a physical altercation with another male student earlier this afternoon. We are following this and we'll have reaction from one at-risk youth activist coming up in our news at 7:30. In addition to that, we've got much more to get to in a moment, but for now, we turn things over to meteorologist Greg Thompson for your first look at temperatures. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Kendian, and welcome everybody for our first look at weather. Pretty nice conditions outside. We did wake up to temperatures once again in the upper 50s to low 60s, and it did warm up into the very low 80s. Right now, we're settling into the mid 70s, 74 degrees outside our studios, with just a few clouds. The winds have picked up. They are out of the east at 12 miles per hour. And your feels like temperature at 74. Temperatures around the islands tonight, it's 70 degrees in Freeport, 74 in Marsh Harbor, Abaco, 75 in Alistown, Bimini, as well as in Great Harbor Key and Nicholstown, 74 over in Governor's Harbor. Central Bahamas, temperatures a little warmer there, 74 in Kemps Bay, 75 in Arthurstown. We also pick up 74 in Coburn Town, San Salvador. Over in Georgetown and in Deadman's Key, a pair of 77s. Southeast Bahamas, temperatures a little warmer still, 78 in Duncantown, Ragged Island. Then we pick up 77s in Colonel Hill, Cricket Island, Delectable Bay, Acklands, and in Abrahams Bay. Matthewtown, Inagua, 78, and our neighbors, very good neighbors to the southeast, Tricks and Kickers Islands, you are 78 at this hour. Satellite view, that high pressure ridge is still in charge of our weather, but we are watching a frontal boundary that is going to be approaching us from the northwest, actually moving into the Gulf of Mexico. Not much in terms of any significant weather with it. Some showers and isolated thunderstorms expected as the system pushes towards the east and moves across Florida. We do expect this frontal boundary to get into the Bahamas by tomorrow evening. That's Friday evening. So we're looking at a couple isolated showers with that. Of course, the high pressure system will continue to keep us very warm just ahead of that front through tomorrow. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us. Look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, the transport minister says she has not left the taxi cab union on red. Plus, she explains what she will not tolerate from the union. But first, the Chinese ambassador to the Bahamas says China's COVID situation is under control. The health minister explains how officials are managing the virus locally. And later, new details in the fall of FTX as the former CEO speaks on possible causes of the collapse. That's coming up when our news returns. Reassurances tonight from the ambassador for the People's Republic of China, who says the COVID situation in China is under control. The news came during a presentation of medical supplies to the Public Hospitals Authority today as the global COVID case numbers continue to rise. Megan Shepard has the story.
Ambassador for the People's Republic of China, Dai Qingli, noting that in recent weeks, cases of COVID-19 have been on the rise across China. To this end, she says the situation is under control.
Beijing is among the first cities to see infections peak, and life is coming back to normal. And provinces and cities across China are seeing infections peak to varying degrees. We are confident that we will be able to prevail over this latest surge reasonably soon.
Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Michael Darville says the situation is fluid and at this time there are no plans to reintroduce COVID restrictions. Managing Director of the Public Hospitals Authority, Dr. Abinette Roll, giving an update on local COVID numbers.
But we were ranging just underneath 18. However, I think what's most important is that out of those cases, that's not the primary diagnosis still.
The latest variant, XBB 1.5, is said to be highly transmissible. Dr. Darville says the ministry awaits confirmation on whether the strain is in country.
Samples have already been sent off for gene sequencing. It's in the Caribbean. We have a very robust rebound of our tourism sector. I suspect that it is here. Confirmation will be on the way.
The health minister also adding that tent city provided by Samaritan's Purse has been removed. He says within 10 days, hurricane-proof modular units are expected on island. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
And after repeated calls for her resignation by the taxicab union, the transport minister is firing back. Jamila Mizik is following this.
The last time I spoke to the media, I advised that there was a communication, and I think that was maybe early November, and they advised they weren't available to meet at that date that we had given them, and we told them we'll advise us when they return from Abaco, when they're available, and I don't think I've seen any communication since then. I could be wrong. I checked my phones. I checked my emails. I didn't leave anything on read, so I don't know if there's anything that came.
That's Transport and Housing Minister JoBeth Colby Davis explaining her side to the growing feud with the Bahamas Taxicab Union. President of the Taxicab Union, Wesley Ferguson, told Our News on Monday that they are still waiting for a meeting with the minister. Ferguson also launched a blistering attack against the transport minister, saying she's been missing in action for months. He also called for Colby Davis to resign from her cabinet-appointed post. To that, the transport minister is calling his tone in the media disrespectful.
I'm open to meet with the union. I'm okay to discuss what other issues they may have, but what I would not stand for is the continued disrespect that comes every time the union speaks to the press. That's not how I think we should run the business of the country. It should be with respect. I've respected everyone. I've treated everyone fairly, and that's how I expect to be treated as a minister.
Back in July 2022, Ferguson suggested a 30% fare increase, but the transport minister told reporters that it had not yet reached cabinet for discussion. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
And disgraced FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried breaking his silence since he was extradited and arraigned in a New York court on a newly launched website where he summarized the downfall of the company. Berthany McDermott has the details.
In a lengthy Substack post, former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried accusing Binance's CEO of targeting FTX and plotting its demise. Binance at one point revealed plans to purchase part of the now fallen company, but pulled out after the company went belly up. The 30-year-old alleges a tweet from the Binance CEO ended a, quote, extremely effective months-long PR campaign against FTX, end quote. The blog post has some of Bankman-Fried's first public comments since he pleaded not guilty to 8 federal charges of fraud in connection to FTX's collapse. In the post, the disgraced former crypto giant maintaining his innocence, saying, quote, I didn't steal funds and I certainly didn't stash billions away. Nearly all of my assets were and still are utilizable to backdrop FTX customers, end quote. Bankman-Fried has also been in a legal battle with multiple creditors over his stake in Robinhood. His lawyers have argued he should retain the stake to help fund legal fees. Well, in that lengthy post, he said, quote, I have offered to contribute nearly all of my personal shares in Robinhood to customers, or 100%, if the Chapter 11 team would honor my D&O legal expenses indemnification, end quote. It also included estimates from his crypto hedge fund Alameda Research, which went into solvency and filed for bankruptcy back in November. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
When Our News comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as we tell you why Haiti is seeing a rush at its passport offices. This as the region grapples with irregular migration from Cuba, what some countries are doing about it. Plus, a green future for Barbados with a big injection from the World Bank. We have the details when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. day after the Federal Aviation Administration's safety information system failed, delays and cancellations among flights across the United States were said to be minimal. The outage that has since been resolved saw the grounding of U.S. air traffic, leading to thousands of stranded travelers. According to flight tracking website FlightAware, there were 636 delays and 82 cancellations Wednesday. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg warning travelers they could continue to see some ripple effects. A new Zimbabwe law now banning health workers such as nurses and doctors from prolonged strikes, imposing punishments of up to 6 months in jail for defiant workers or union leaders. A government spokesman said the provision signed into law last week stipulates health workers can only strike up to 3 days because they are considered an essential service. Public health workers argue that their salaries, around $100 a month for many, and a lack of basic equipment make their jobs untenable. And finally, 8 poachers from the Dominican Republic were detained in waters off the Turks and Caicos Islands yesterday after the Royal Turks and Caicos Police Force reported it received information of illegal fishing on the Caicos banks on January 10th. Police say an hours-long operation by the Marine Branch in the vicinity of White Key led to the interception of 3 panga fishing vessels 3 miles south of White Key. And a new U.S. immigration plan prompting a rush on the immigration office in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, as hundreds of Haitians are seeking a legal path to the U.S. The Associated Press reports that the crowd has swelled ever since U.S. President Joe Biden announced last Thursday that the U.S. will accept 30,000 people a month from Haiti, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Venezuela. Those selected will need a passport to travel, prompting the daily rush. They will also be entitled to work for 2 years if they have eligible sponsors and pass background checks. Gangs control an estimated 60% of Port-au-Prince since President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated at his private residence in July 2021. And 50 more Cubans making landfall overnight as Immigration Minister Keith Bell reveals more about the recent upswing in irregular migration from Cuba. Marlena Leonard explains the impact at home and across the region.
There was another landing. The defense force would have came in, but I think about 50 Cubans last night. And so we are continuing to witness an upswing in the number of irregular migrants from Cuba, and certainly we know they continue to come in from Haiti.
Last week, the immigration minister revealed that more than 50% of the current detainees at the detention center are Cuban.
We know that the Ukrainian war is having a significant impact in Cuba, so it is obviously a concern for us. And you'd have seen up to yesterday, I think, a cruise ship intercepted a Cuban vessel, and also we know some landed in Key West, Florida.
And we've certainly seen the evidence of this spike in irregular migration from our southern neighbors, as last night's landing is the second incident for the week. Our News was on the scene as immigration officers combed the Marshall Road area on Monday. We're just off Marshall Road, where officers from the Department of Immigration and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, with the help of tracking dogs, are on the hunt this morning after a suspected landing of a migrant vessel last night. And we aren't the only ones struggling with the influx. Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis signed an executive order last Friday, activating the National Guard to assist local agencies with the overwhelming number of landings. While nearly 900 migrants were intercepted in the U.S. during 2021's fiscal year, American authorities have reported that more than 4,000 Cuban migrants were intercepted at sea since October 1st, 2022. As for our handling of the situation, Bell tells us new tactics have made smuggling harder to spot, resulting in heightened surveillance of our waters.
We're now seeing, I think, a significant upswing in boats being propelled by engine, and then we're also witnessing a number of pleasure crafts where they're being smuggled through pleasure crafts, and so we're monitoring all vessels coming in and out of our jurisdiction.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks a lot, Marlena. And just for clarification, that overnight landing happened on Tuesday. Well, a country in the region getting the fuel it needs to better go green. Here's Christina Dragovich with tonight's Sustainability First report.
Bahamas First, putting sustainability first for our people and our environment. What's first for you and the planet comes first for us.
Barbados putting the spotlight on climate change in the region with impassioned pleas by Mia Mottley, Prime Minister of Barbados. Now the country is getting some much-needed fuel to charge its resilience to climate change. The World Bank Tuesday approved $100 million in financing to support Barbados' low-carbon economic development. In a statement from the World Bank, Mottley explained the necessity of support to middle-income, small island developing states. She adds, this loan allows Barbados to advance its efforts to achieve climate resilience, including our shift to clean energy, ultimately better shielding Barbadians from the worst of the climate crisis while creating opportunities for green and blue jobs. The main pillars of the loan include green and blue resilient development with laws on water reuse, a climate change and agriculture policy, and the establishment of an environmental sustainability fund. According to the World Bank, it also supports the reduction of marine pollution and managing natural resources. The second pillar facilitates Barbados' low-carbon efforts with increased renewable energy capacity and support for climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts. Barbados, like the Bahamas, relies heavily on imported fossil fuels and the fluctuating prices of the market. That reliance and rising fuel prices highlight the vulnerability of Barbados' economic recovery and environmental vulnerabilities. The World Bank's Climate Action Plan commits 35% of the bank's financing to climate action. Last year, it gave $26 billion to climate investments in developing countries, including those in the region. Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina Dragovich.
Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was January 12th and when the legislative and executive councils became two distinct bodies. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, there's a new way to invest your money. The brains behind the project says it may be worth going the extra mile. That's coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. It's time now to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was January 12th. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1841, the legislative and executive councils became two distinct bodies. Previously, the council performed both legislative and executive functions and its membership exclusive to the House of Assembly. The Department of Archives notes that in 1840, the apparent vacancy of seats in the council warranted a separation of the council's functions. The governor at the time applied for the separation of the councils because he wished to appoint two members of the House of Assembly to these vacancies, but their resignations from the House would be necessary. Both councils consisted of 9 members with a quorum of 3, and by this arrangement, the governor could have advisors in the House of Assembly and thereby have more control over the House. And also on this day in 2012, then Deputy Prime Minister Brent Simonet announced he would not seek re-election in the 2012 general election, stepping down from frontline politics.
The FNM is committed to introducing a new brand, a new group of candidates. I feel it is time, after the Prime Minister and I have discussed it, for me to make way for the other persons to come forward and contribute to the party in whichever way they can.
You know, this has been a very good kept secret. Brent has told me this more than 2 years ago, that he did not intend to seek re-election. And one day he said it in the presence of some of his colleagues. And somebody leaked it to the newspapers, and I'm still looking for that culprit.
However, 5 years later, Simonet returned to the front line in 2017 under the Minnis administration, despite supporting Loretta Butler Turner in the FNM leadership contest. Simonet was sworn in as Minister of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration after regaining his seat and served until July 1st, 2019, when he resigned. Simonet did not seek re-election in 2021. All right, well, that does it for us in News at 7. Joining us now is Italia Hall. She's got the latest headlines. Italia, it's good to see you back in the chair.
Thanks, Ken. It feels good to be back.
All right.
All right. Did you enjoy your holiday?
I did. I worked, but we still had fun.
Okay, work is always good, right? Yeah. All right, Ken. And we're still following the story of a teen caught with a high-powered weapon, what youth advocates are saying, and we will tell you how you can make your money work harder for you this year. Tonight on Our News Live at 7:30, here's what we're following tonight. One day after a teen is found with high-powered weapons, we take a closer look at where teens are getting the guns and why. And livery drivers say they are not at war with taxi drivers as they speak up on what the hired car service is really like. And later, are you looking to invest your money? Well, there may be a new way to make your money work for you. Plus, the fight against COVID continues as more than $100,000 worth of PPE is donated to the public hospitals. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Welcome to Our News and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. Topping news tonight, we've got the latest in the case of a man accused of a 2016 shooting of a policeman in just a moment. But first, news of a teen being found with a high-powered weapon, a sad reality. That's according to Teen Challenge Executive Director Eric Fox, who is sharing his thoughts about at-risk youth and their relationship with guns, power, and self-confidence. Marlena Leonard takes a deeper look.
On Wednesday afternoon, police arrested a 15-year-old boy in the capital after ShotSpotter technology alerted them to shots being fired in the Wilton Street area. As it turned out, the boy had a high-powered gun. I asked Teen Challenge Bahamas' executive director, Eric Fox, where young boys are getting these guns.
We don't have a young people problem in this country. We have an adult problem in this country. I'm quite sure if you trace that gun to where that came from, that young boy didn't bring that gun here. That young man, he probably just ended up with that gun. Or probably an adult gave it to him, or he probably found it or something like that. But he was not the one responsible for getting it here. You know, young people that jump on no boat and go and bring in no drugs. Yeah, adults do those kind of stuff, but they are the end result of reckless people, greedy people, unconcerned people who just after the mighty dollar. Then the young persons are the results of that type of behavior.
Fox says the bigger question is why young men are so eager to get their hands on guns.
Why are these young men so interested in power? A gun is like having a power. Why are they so interested with fire and this power? It's because they don't have no power in themselves. That's the only way they get power. I had a young man one time say the first time in his life he could ever tell people what to do is when he had a gun. Everyone would tell him what to do. Now he can tell you, shut up, sit down, give me this.
Now Fox is working on getting empowering and corrective courses at institutions across the country.
Issues need to be addressed on a consistent basis because consistency produces change. It's just not a matter of standing up and talking. It's a matter of getting feedback because you don't even know whether the person is understanding what you're trying to say. And then you give them homework, practical homework, to put these information that you've given them into practice when they run into the situation.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
Thanks so much, Marlena. And later, we'll tell you about a book written by Fox and two other well-known at-risk youth advocates titled Reaching the Streets. Well, a man on bail for the 2016 shooting of a policeman during an attempted armed robbery has been fined $3,500 for breaching his bail curfew. 28-year-old Tanars Ferguson will spend 9 months in prison if he does not pay the fine. Additionally, he's been placed on an 18-month probation. If Ferguson is convicted of any offense while on probation, he will be jailed for 1 year. The court heard that Ferguson breached his curfew on 7 occasions between November 2nd, 2022 through January 8th. In October of 2016, Ferguson was charged with the attempted murder and attempted armed robbery of Sergeant Brent Dixon, who was an aide to then Prime Minister Perry Christie. Police said Dixon was accosted by 2 gunmen who demanded cash soon after he pulled up to a home on September 5, 2016. Dixon was shot during the struggle that followed. While 2 men are in police custody after they were found in possession of several rounds of ammunition and marijuana, police say it was around 2:25 p.m. on Wednesday when officers from the Drug Enforcement Unit executed a search warrant on a home in Golden Palm Estates and confiscated the illegal items. The drugs weigh 13 ounces and have an estimated street value of $780. Meanwhile, livery drivers are on the defense tonight, shooting down claims that there's an ongoing war between hired drivers at the airport. Berthany McDermott fills us in.
The Bahamas Livery Association straight out denying assertions that there is an ongoing war between taxi and livery drivers. On Monday, Taxi Cab Union President Wesley Ferguson said as much and called on authorities to step in before the situation escalates. Bahamas Livery Drivers Association President Teron Williams.
We are not at war.
One livery driver told Our News he believes taxi drivers are jealous of them because, quote, they drive nicer cars and wear nicer clothes, end quote.
That's not the case. And like right now, we have proper management at the airport during the day. There's somebody greeting them from road traffic and properly assigning the jobs.
Meanwhile, the association's president says the issue is that the airport lacks management at international arrivals in the evenings.
During the evening shift, there's no representation from NAD. Road traffic has to contend with managing the drivers and trying to greet the guests as they come through. So it is a challenge during the evening shift.
Now, the association is also refuting claims that there's been an oversaturation of livery plates and thanking Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis for granting them what they say is a sense of freedom.
You know, we were asking for plates for a long time, many years. No government did it. She took it by the hand. From the first meeting, she told us she's going to get it done. The second meeting, it was done. Reporting
for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Thanks for that report, Berthany. Well, mostly sunny skies in the capital today. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has the latest from the Weather Center. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Natalia, and welcome everybody for our first check on weather on this second half of our newscast. 74 degrees outside our studios with a few clouds. The winds are out of the east at 12 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature a very comfortable 74 degrees. Satellite view, quiet weather in charge or across our area. Ridge of high pressure continues to dominate. That ridge is sliding slowly out towards the east. That's going to be paving the way for a frontal boundary now moving into the Gulf of Mexico. We do expect that front to get in here sometime tomorrow evening. A couple isolated showers expected with that, but a nice cool down once that front pushes through for the weekend. Temperatures will take a dip into the low 70s. That's your first check on weather. Stick with us. A look at your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, putting a stop to water woes on Eleuthera. The area MP says the issue has been fixed. And we'll tell you how a young entrepreneur opened the door to new investments for Bahamians. And you don't want to miss tonight's Consumer Report, how you can be more financially responsible in 2023. Stay with us. Ongoing water challenges in central Eleuthera prompted the island's MP to intervene. Now, just last month, residents in central Eleuthera went without water for days as the island experienced a week-long water outage. Tonight, MP for the area, Clay Sweeting, says the issue has since been rectified.
Since December, we've had good water service there for the past month, so I'm happy to report that we've been able to, the Ministry of Works and the Water and Sewage Corporation has fixed the situation for now, and hopefully as we continue to monitor and fix whatever issues are still lying, that we'll continue with a good service.
An employment matter in Abaco was brought to the attention of the Prime Minister this morning. That's according to Press Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Clint Watson, who says a number of employees have not been paid for several months. He says the Prime Minister will be investigating the matter.
Prime Minister has been in touch with representation from Endeavour Development International related to Bahamian workers not being paid for a significant period in Abaco. This is a story that's coming out of Abaco of a company that has been operating there but apparently has not been paying its staff since sometime last year.
Which is known at this time.
Hopefully we'll be able to get some figures as to what's owed, how many people are owed. Only thing we know is this is a company that has partnership with an investor, foreign investor, as well as a local partner. And they were doing some construction work along with for Baker's Bay. They were contracted to do some work with Baker's Bay. We understand that some of the employees have not been paid since last year, September sometime. Understanding there's been some talking about it on social media, but never a formal complaint until we saw something, and then we checked into it and found out that it is an actual real issue that's happening.
A new fintech company is now in the works and is set to launch soon with a program geared towards Bahamian real estate. Our Joshua Williams has the details.
If I have a solution to a problem, if I have a solution that can get Bahamians to have.
Now, we apologize for that technical difficulty. We'll come back to that later on in the newscast. We are 12 days into 2023. The beginning of the year is usually a time when most people reset and take on new goals. Some of those goals are often financial. I spoke with a certified financial educator in Grand Bahama who says saving is key. She's also sharing some tips.
We have to normalize saying no, because whenever we just say yes to anything financial, that's what causes us to really blow our budget.
Financial expert Kayleen Newton says in addition to saying no, the keys to successfully reaching your financial goals for 2023 is budgeting and saving.
What you need to do is commit to an amount, whatever that minimum amount is that you could consistently commit to every pay period. Put it aside, set it and forget it.
And if you're wondering how to save and where to save?
So for an emergency fund, you want to have quick access to that. So you would save that in a banking institution that you have a debit card connected to. If it's about short-term goals, you want to use a credit union or an ASU account like what Fidelity has, because it stays on that account for a period of time. You get a higher interest rate because, you know, banks aren't giving you, they're giving you little to nothing. And so you would save on a credit union so that you could get that interest. And then for long term, you would go to an insurance company or financial institution that allows for annuities.
The certified financial educator says cutting back on expenses is also important. And as for discipline?
If you create a compelling why, and you also create clear, structured, smart financial goals, you will be more committed to being consistent with your finances.
And now to that story on a new fintech company now in the works and set to launch soon with a program geared towards Bahamian real estate. Here's our Joshua Williams.
If I have a solution to a problem, if I have a solution that can get Bahamians to have ownership in our land.
What started out as a dream in 2020 has now turned into reality. Acreage CEO and founder Carlisle Bethel says it will provide unique ways to invest in the market.
Acreage is a crowdfunding platform that allows users, members, clients to invest in income-producing property, income-producing real estate, whether that's an apartment complex, a duplex, a boutique hotel, a parking lot.
Bethel says the company has received provisional approval from the Securities Commission of the Bahamas. With the recent arrest of former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, Bethel admits that there has been some skepticism when it comes to investing in other areas, including real estate.
We are investing in actual real assets. Everything is backed by actual properties. You could see, feel, touch it. And if you want taste the building, you could go ahead and do that. But we know that our clients, from the beginning to end, we hold their hand from the beginning to end. When you accept money from people, hard-earned money that they have invested their time and energy in making, you want to make sure that that is protected. You want to make sure that is custodied. You want to make sure that the client's best interests are always first and foremost.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Joshua Williams.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, more than $100,000 worth of medical supplies donated to the public healthcare system from the government of China.
We meet the news crop of Bahamian pro baseball players. The Bahamas Youth Flag Football League sends 3 teams to compete in Tampa, and Buddy goes off at the Garden. Stay with us for Our Sports.
And later, collaborating to reach the streets. We'll tell you how when our news continues. This is Our News. Welcome back. As COVID numbers rise globally, health officials here at home continue to monitor cases. While to assist in that fight, the People's Republic of China donating 3 40-foot containers of medical supplies to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Ambassador for the People's Republic of China, Cheng Li Dai, says they will continue to partner in this fight.
Consisting of oximeters, hospital protective equipment, from masks to shoe covers, and hospital trolleys with a combined value of 1.2 million Chinese yuan, or roughly 170,000 US dollars. They are the 11th batch and the largest one so far of medical supplies and equipment offered by China to the Bahamas since the start of the pandemic.
Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Michael Darville, thanking the ambassador for the donation and says, as for rising global cases, there is no need to panic.
Even though we're seeing some cases here at the Princess Margaret Hospital, there is no need for any major panic at this time or the implementation of any new restrictive measures. I would like to join with Obanet to thank the People's Republic of China once again for this gift of love. And I assure them that the resources and supplies will be used very wisely and distributed evenly through various sectors of the healthcare system.
4 more Bahamians embark on baseball careers. The Bahamas sends young flag football players to international competition, and Buddy Hield scores 31 in the world's most famous arena. Tej Adderley now looks at sports.
Hello, Italia. Good evening and welcome to Our Sports. I'm Tej Adderley. The Bahamas has become a hotspot for baseball talent. Tonight, we meet the latest class of Major League prospects. The Bahamas sends 3 teams to Tampa to play in the world's largest flag football tournament, and Buddy Hield goes off in the Big Apple. Let's take a look. 4 young Bahamians are embarking on careers as professional baseball players. Sebastian Walcott, Gennaro Miller, Andrew Arthur, and Chad Delancey, all of International Elite Academy, are expected to sign with Major League organizations when the signing period begins this weekend. Walcott is expected to sign with the Texas Rangers, Miller with the Miami Marlins, Arthur with the St. Louis Cardinals, and Delancey with the Boston Red Sox. We'll have more on them in the next couple of weeks when they officially sign. The Bahamas Youth Flag Football League is sending 3 teams consisting of 36 players to compete at the USA Flag World Championships in Tampa, USA this weekend. Now, this is the biggest tournament in the world with over 800 teams, 10,000 players in total competing. Best of luck to the players, coaches, and support staff. We'll bring you their results as the tournament unfolds. And finally, Buddy Hield went off at the Mecca. The Pride of 8 Mile Rock scored 31 points on 11 of 20 shooting, and he grabbed 8 rebounds, but it wasn't enough as his Indiana Pacers came up short against the New York Knicks, 119-113. He'll be in the A tomorrow night to take on the Hawks. And that's your look at sports. I'm Tej Adderley.
Still ahead on Our News tonight, youth leaders collaborate for an initiative reaching the streets. And don't go away just yet. Your extended weather forecast is coming up when Our News returns.
household and everyday supplies. Open 7 days a week from 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. NIB drug plan is accepted and delivery service is available. So call 323-1037 today or visit Wilmax Pharmacy on Ponciana Drive opposite the University of the Bahamas.
How is your day going?
In a word, busy. 6 a.m. gym, 7 a.m. breakfast, 8 a.m. drop the kids to school, 9 to 3 back-to-back meetings with working lunch, of course, 4 p.m. pick up the kids, 4:15 dog groomer. Oh, but that reminds me, oh dear.
Is something wrong?
Yeah, I double booked my 6 p.m. Charity committee versus helping out at the kids' ballet. Oh, it's a tough one. I promised the kids.
Which one are you going to reschedule?
Neither. Divide and conquer. My husband can handle his own on the dance floor.
It's a good thing your money's been just as busy.
RF, keeping your money busy with investment products and services that match your needs.
You are invited to the 32nd Annual Bahamas Business Outlook on Thursday, January 19th at the Bahamar Convention Center with keynote speaker Prime Minister the Right Honorable Philip Davis. A diverse slate of speakers from various industries will address the theme Forward, Upward, Onward Together in celebration of the nation's 50th year of independence. Register now at tclevents.com to attend. Don't miss Bahamas Business Outlook, January 19th.
Please be advised that REV has commenced mass disconnection exercises for all accounts with outstanding balances of 90 days or more. Delinquent account holders are advised to pay their bill immediately to avoid service interruption. Simply call us on 605-PAYS or WhatsApp 829-PAYS to make payments or to discuss payment options. Failure to do so will result in service disconnection. To view and pay your bill online anytime, simply visit my.rev.bs.
Welcome back to our news. We may see a change in the weather this weekend. Greg has a look at your extended weather forecast.
Yeah, thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody, for our final check on weather. We are enjoying some beautiful weather. We've been having some nice dry air mass cross us. No fronts in the neighborhood, but we are watching another one that's actually going to be approaching us by tomorrow evening. That front is going to be moving through the northwest Bahamas by Friday late and into Saturday morning. It should be into the central Bahamas. Big changes behind that front. We expect some nice cooler air mass to be moving across the islands and a nice change in the atmosphere. High pressure will once again dominate our weather for the upcoming week. It's going to be breezy, so we're asking you boaters and you beachgoers for the weekend. We are going to urge you not to get out there in the waters because we expect some winds up to 20 to 25 knots. Possible gale force winds expected across the northwest Bahamas, so it's going to be very hazardous for boating and beaching for the weekend. Taking a look at our future forecast, this is how things will be shaping up. Couple isolated showers out there, but most of the activity will be with this front boundary as it approaches us by the weekend. Friday, as I mentioned, into Saturday. Most of the activity will be pushing out towards the east and away from us, and the high pressure system will be building across us for the weekend. Boating conditions for the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Those winds will be swinging out of the south to southwest. They will be picking up in speed 15 to 20 knots through tomorrow. Seas will be building 4 to 6 feet. Your high tide will be at 11:35 tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, those winds coming down a bit. Southeast to south winds at 10 to 15 knots. Seas 2 to 4 feet. Those winds will be slightly high across the southeast Bahamas as well as your seas in that location. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, frontal boundary pushes through tomorrow. We expect some showers and isolated thunderstorms with that front. But Saturday, those temperatures take a big dip. We're looking at some upper 60s to low 70s across most of the island chain. And those winds will be picking up. And of course, for the remainder of the weekend and into next week, we're looking at some very nice weather. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
All right, nice temperatures. Thanks, Greg. And finally tonight, 3 of the country's best-known at-risk youth outreach advocates have come together to write a book titled Reaching the Streets. Executive Director of Teen Challenge Bahamas and the book's co-author, Eric Fox, tells us about the book that he, Dr. Carlos Reed, and Dr. Dave Barrows are bringing to the public.
We are pushing this book, and we'll be doing seminars and talk shows, and because myself, Pastor Dave, and Carlos Reed, we come with a wealth of experience, not only from our training and our education, but also from the streets, because all of us were on the streets, also involved in some crazy stuff ourselves. So we bring all that to bear.
Fox explains why it's so important to collaborate, not only with other authors, but between organizations such as law enforcement agencies and government when battling crime.
I look at this like a beast. We're trying to bring down this anti-social behavior and all this violence. It's like a beast. And we spoke, and I said, we have to come together. There's no one particular organization, there's not one particular entity that has the answer. We have to work with the police, we have to work with social service, we have to work with the government, we have to work with the schools, we have to work with parents, we have to work with everybody to bring this beast down. We can't bring it down, but it's like hunting, it's like the lioness does. You see how they hunt? They hunt in a pack. Because they know when in the park there's strength and they can bring this big buffalo down. So we now decide we're gonna use that type of avenue, and we're gonna use our expertise. We can all come together.
All right, and for more stories like this and all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs, and remember, you can share your favorite stories right from the Our News Bahamas Facebook page. And with that, we thank you for joining us for Our News Tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.